as soon as he graduated high school. And the day after he graduated, he was like, "Phew, going out of here." It's kind of a small town. Not a lot of opportunity there, but unless you want to work in the mine. Yeah, make sure you guys sign in. I guess we can get started. I have one poll for you. Let's see. Yeah, one poll. So we're pretty much done with chapter 4 now, which was on functions. And now we're going into input validation. But we're still going to deal with functions throughout the rest of our course. We're still going to be writing functions. And what's due, there's a lot due this week. And I'm going to help you guys. Today, I'm going to help you a lot. I'm going to let you guys, as a group, solve tonight's homework. So I'm going to break it into 4 parts, and each group is going to do one piece. And then put it all together, and that'll be the solution. All right, so it's going to help you. So, but you're going to solve today's homework by yourselves. Hi.
No.
So our topic for this week is called input validation. And there's really not a big section. Let's see if this pen's going to work. Yeah. There's not a big section in the book on it, but there is a little document that's on the webpage. I'll show you in a second. But it's from another book, but it talks about input validation. And that brings us to our first question here, and our poll question. What does GIGO stand for? And 13 people voted. It stands for garbage in, garbage out. And you guys are right. And that's pretty much input validation right there. If you put garbage in to your program, you're going to get garbage out, right? If you put bad data in, like if it asks for an integer and you put in a string or a float or something else, you're going to get junk out. So that's why we do input validation. We want to only accept good data. And we've already done that a little bit, right? Does anybody remember like our kind of main idea for just getting good data? Let me get in this pool so I can allow more people in. Make sure you guys sign in. Good. Does anybody remember kind of our paradigm for input validation? Like, what are we going to do when we want to validate our input? Does anyone remember?
Oh, I remember that we had to use like while loops.
Yeah, that's right. Good.
To keep repeating the question, if the user keeps putting in bad data, like incorrect data, it'll keep looping until they actually put in the correct
That's right. Good.
information.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You got it. Okay, so when we have a while loop, do we do a pre-read of the data? Do you remember if we do that or not? Do we read something in first and then loop? Or do we loop and then read something in? I didn't realize my undershirt was this long. So long. So we're going to loop while something is bad, right? Right? So you got that right. So my question now is there what we call a pre-read? do we read something in before we get into the while loop? You think so? Yeah. Does anybody else think we've got to do a pre-read? Yeah. Yeah, we do. Yes. Okay, so let's write a little function that does a pre-read and keeps looping. So say we want to get an integer. That's our only goal, is for the user to input an integer in this program. So we might say my int height. Let me write this bigger. My int equals, we might say int input. I'm going to convert it to an int. Please enter let's say a positive integer. Oops. Okay. So this is our pre-read, right? We've converted it to an integer. We say input here, which prints this out to the screen. Actually, I should put a colon here and a space to make it look a little better. Okay? And then we get into a while loop, right? And we could say one other thing here. We could add a sentinel too. Please enter a positive integer -1 when done. So that would be a sentinel, right? Okay, so, and we could set sentinel as a all in caps, which it tells us is a constant -1. And then we could keep looping, and we could say while sentinel equals -1, we're going to keep looping. Okay. And here we're going to check. So this is going to get us out. And we could also say, we could make this a combination. We could say, well, sentinel equals -1, and we could say type. Can we say this? I think so. Type of my int is int. I think that works. Okay. So this would be wrong now. So this would be right. We want to keep looping while it's bad, right? So it's not equal -1. And the type of my int, so it's not, say it's not an integer, is not int. Somebody needs to test this out for me, make sure this works. Okay, so this is bad. We're going to keep looping while it's bad. So they haven't typed into -1, they're not done, and they haven't entered an integer. Something's wrong. So then you got to print out an error message. Error must be integer, positive integer. Okay, there's our error. And then we could just copy this whole line here back inside the while loop again. So we're just going to keep reading. We'll just copy this whole thing in here. Please enter positive integer. Soon type. Okay. -1 when done. So this is what Tony said. We're going to keep looping, loop, while the data is bad. Okay, so that's our main idea for input validation. We want to only accept good data. We want to loop while the data is bad. And there is a pre-read. So this is the pre-read. We got to get something first and then loop while it is bad. Okay. So we could actually check something similar. Did anybody check this? Let's try this. Did anybody check if that actually works? Let me pull it up for you guys. Let's fire up Python. Let's say x equals 5, and I want to say type x is int. Oh, it does work. Okay, it says true. Okay. So that's one way to check if it's an integer. And here I just overlooked something. I'm asking for a positive integer. So what could I put in here that would be a little simpler than this? If I'm only looking for greater than 0 numbers, what would be bad?
Anything less than 0?
Yeah. Less than or equal to 0. Is 0 considered positive?
Oh.
I don't know.
No.
It's neither.
It's neither, right? So I could make this a little simpler if I wanted and say, this will work. I could say, I haven't hit the sentinel and my int, whoops, int, I could just say, I could probably just say less than 0. Okay? And that's pretty simple. It's less than 0, it's not positive, so I'm going to keep looping. So this is the very simple way of input validation, okay? We're going to learn a more complicated way where we encapsulate this whole idea into a function, and it'll be called the one function input validation model. And then we're going to do something even more complicated where we encapsulate this whole idea into 2 functions. That's called the 2-function input validation model. And the 2-function input validation model allows you to check a whole bunch of different things, like, you know, I want it to be positive, and I want it to be an even number, and I want it to be between 10 and 50, for example. You can check a whole bunch of different things with the 2-function input validation model. Well, let me let you guys in, sorry. Zoom tight. I've been sneezing a lot too. I think it's that ragweed out there. So let me show you guys what I'm talking about as far as the reading goes. So, oh, you can't see this. Let's see. Oh, wait, no, you are seeing it. Okay. So here's what's due. Oopsie daisy, come on, cancel. Okay, input validation, where are we at? Okay, oh, here's our overview. So this is what we're talking about today, and this week, input validation. The computer's kind of dumb. It doesn't know if the user's input good data or bad. You got to assume that the computer is not smart enough to know that you input anything that's good or bad, okay? So you want to write a program that, what we used to say was, if it's going to crash, it's going to crash elegantly. It's not just going to give you an ugly error message and say unknown error. It's going to say something like, you didn't put in a positive integer, or you didn't put in a string, or something like that. It's going to give you a nice little warning and exit. So you need to create code using various loops that iterate as long as the input variable contains undesirable data. That's what Tony just said. This typically forces the user to input valid data. So you want to keep looping while the data's bad. That's what garbage in, garbage out means. And we're going to look at various input validation loops. And all this stuff is called defensive programming. You want to write your program that'll handle any kind of input, like, and you should test it against all kinds of stuff, like an empty string. If somebody asks for an int, and you just type return, check for that, or type in an empty string and hit return, or type in ABC and hit return. or type in 3.14 and hit return, or type in a fraction or a special character. You should try it with all these different things and see if it runs properly. Okay, that would be a good program that doesn't fail. So what I want you to do, here's where the reading is, and it's not that long. It's right here. It's called Chapter 8, Input Validation. And has anybody read this yet? Oh, yeah, okay. Have you read it, Adrian? Good. So this is, let me scroll down a little bit here. This is from another book. The old book that we used to use, that you guys had to pay for, had this in there. So I would read this. It's not that long. It's a few pages long. And it's talking about pseudocode. And here's the one input validation, or one function input validation model. So they're giving it to you in pseudocode. So here's our, so this is a standard input while loop with a priming read. I called it a pre-read, priming read, same thing. You got to read something first. Okay. So it's a priming read and a sentinel. So right here we've said declare global constant integer sentinel is -1. This one has a low value of 0. And this below code determines the lowest and highest numbers entered by the user. So it's just going to keep prompting for numbers. It's going to check that it's a real number. It's going to get a valid number, and that's where the function. This is your one function right here. It's calling this function. This is called the one function input validation model. It's calling this function get valid number. Okay. This is the one function. This is the function that's going to keep looping while things are bad. Okay. And so right here, this is our pre-read. We're getting the first valid number. We're sending it a message, and the message is to this function, enter a number greater than the low value. Here's pretty nice use of a constant here. We just have to change it in one spot. Wow, what's going on here? Can I type on this thing? Let's see. Probably not. Oh. That's cool. So, this is a nice use of using a constant here. So if we want to change low value to -100, you just change it here. And enter sentinel, which is -1 to quit. So it's going to prompt the user down here in this function. Okay, we're going to get our number, say it's 5. And we're going to say, if new value is not equal to sentinel, which is -1, we're going to set both the highest and lowest value to 5. And then we're going to keep looping here. While new value is not equal sentinel, it's not. It's 5. Is it greater than the highest value? No, it is the highest value. If it's less than the lowest value? No. At the very first time, both of these are going to fail. Because it is, we set it both equal to highest and lowest. Then we're going to get another value. Okay, and then just keep looping, looping, looping. And then at the very end, when somebody types -1 to get out, then we're just going to print out the highest value is highest value and lowest value is lowest. So let's look at the one function here. Okay, here's the one function. So how do can I erase this stuff? Yeah. There we go, cool. So here's our one function, input validation routine. It's called, and this is pseudocode, right? Function integer get valid number, and it takes a string. So that says it's a function, it returns an integer, and the name is get valid number. So let's write this. Can somebody help me write this in Python code? Let's do it over here. Can somebody tell me what to write? Should I make that bigger? Looks a little small. Nope, that's too big, isn't it? Eh. That's pretty big. All right, so you guys remember how to write a function, right? So what's the first word when we create a new function?
Def.
Def, yeah. Define. And a space, and then, do we need the word integer?
No.
Nope. Just say get valid number,
So no parameters.
number. Yep, and does it have any parameters?
No.
It does.
Oh,
But do we have to have the word string in there? No, we just say message. We don't have to tell it what type it is. We just say it's a message. And when I say declare integer new value, do I have to say both those things?
No.
What do I say?
New value equals get integer message.
Yeah. Is that a capital? Yeah. Well, let's set it to 0 first. So this is the way we declare it. You don't really have to do that, but then we'll say new value equals get integer. Oh, you know what? This one, okay. This is using another, and I sent you guys this function as an announcement today. I don't know if you saw that. The get integer function, okay? So it's calling get integer. So that's gonna get a valid integer. This thing is gonna keep looping also until it gets a valid integer, which is pretty smart. So you know you're gonna get an integer right here, okay? And now we're gonna loop while the input is invalid in here. Because we want something that's greater than the low value and is not the sentinel. So how would I write this in Python? Just, the only thing I would have to change is what? For this to work. Do we use a capital W?
No.
No. And do we use a capital and?
No.
No. And do we need something at the end here for our while loop? What do we need? What's at the end of the while loop? Colon, yeah, colon. Okay. So a colon, and then instead of display, we're gonna say the function, what's the function we use instead of display? Print, yeah. And then that, and do we need an end while? This is all pseudocode, no, we get rid of the end while, and then return is lowercase new value, and then we don't need end function. So I'll just rewrite this. Okay, new value, what is less than low value? So low value, it's not a local variable, right? So how does it see low value in here? This must be a what variable for it to be visible inside here?
Global.
Global, yeah. And it was, we defined it at the very top. And new value is not equal to sentinel, same thing. Running out of room.
But, okay, so it can be a global variable that's made within the function?
That would be a local variable. So the reason we can check against low value inside here is it was declared at the very top.
So it will be declared at the top?
At the very top of everything, yeah. So while this is bad, then we're just gonna say display, and so we're gonna say print, and it says invalid value, right? So we'll just say invalid value. And then we're going to get it, we're just gonna redo what we had right here, new value. This is our priming read. And then we're just gonna move this line down inside the while loop. New value equals get integer with the message, and we pass the message in. Okay, so we're looping while it's bad. Finally, at this same level, it's eventually it's gonna be good. They're gonna type in a good number, and then we're just gonna return new value. Okay? So there's the one function input validation. Okay? Let me pull up get integer. It's pretty simple. It's funny, they don't mention it in this chapter at all. That's why I told you guys, I sent it to you guys. Let's see if I can find it here. Okay, so let me make this a little bigger. Okay, so here's get integer. So it's calling get integer right here with message. Here's the get integer function. It's already written in Python for you guys. Oh, why does it have section there? Oh, okay. Ignore this section part here. This is going to be for your theater seating. You're going to need this for your theater seating lab, which is due Thursday. So just pretend it's only got one parameter. So that's out, and you're just going to say input message. Forget about that, that's gone. Okay, so here's my definition of this function, def get integer. My integer is input message, and the message is going to say please enter a integer. Something like that. And here we have the try and accept. Have we gone over that a little bit in here before? Did we go over try and accept yet? We didn't? Okay. We probably didn't yet. Okay. This is a whole new concept. So try and accept, this is where we can create our own error messages. We can try it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, what we call is throw an exception. We throw a value error, okay? So we're going to try to return the int of the number that they input. Notice we didn't put int in front of this here, which we normally would have done. We're going to say, I'm going to try to convert what they typed to an integer. If that works, if I try that and it works, then we're good. It's just going to return it. The try and accept only does one or the other. If it fails, it's going to say, I'm going to print out a value error, and this is what I'm going to say. My integer is not a valid integer. Please try again. And I'm going to return the function itself. So this is like a recursive function. It's returning itself, which just calls it again. It's kind of an elegant solution. So if it fails, it just returns the same function with the same message, okay? Try and accept, we'll probably get into it a little bit more, but I used to use that a lot when we wrote programs, when I wrote programs when I was working for the county. We would put the whole Python script into, like, this might be our Python script to do some processing overnight. And we might have a comment up here. And then almost the whole thing would be try, and then we would do everything indented. And then we would say accept. And if it fails, we do other things, okay? So try, it will go through here and try to execute everything that's indented under the try statement. If one of these things fails, it jumps down here to the accept and executes these, okay? Because we had to know, like say we were building the street network for the city of Tucson, and we had to rebuild it every single night because people would add new streets. There's people down there that digitize. Say there's a new subdevelopment that comes in, and we add the new street called Camino de la Verde Mirasol. You know, some big long name, but somebody's added a new street, and they digitize it in, and then we have to rebuild that street network every single night. And we had hundreds of these Python scripts that would run at night. And if it failed, we needed to know that it failed and that street network was bad. And what it would do down here would be, we'd have a whole bunch of stuff, and one of them was it would email all of us. You could email right from inside the Python script and say, hey, this process failed. So that's what we would do. So this except, all it does is just spits out an error and it says not a valid integer, please try again. Okay. So that's, in a nutshell, the one function input validation. And that's all I want to go over today. I don't want to confuse you guys with the two function yet.
Sorry, just to clarify,
Yeah.
was try actually like a function in there,
Mhm.
or not built in?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you put it right in here. It's inside the function definition, but you could actually put it outside as well. You could put it right over here, left justified if you wanted. This is just one that's in, you could put it anywhere. And you can have multiple accepts. You can have accept if it's a value error, that's saying that the value is bad. You can have other type of errors. There's all kinds of different ones, like a divide by zero error. You guys have seen those if you try to divide by zero. You can create your own, you can say accept divide by zero and print out your own error message. So you don't have to use the built-in Pythons. This is creating your own errors, error handling procedure. Okay? So that's the one function, and you're going to need that into the, sure, I misspelled that. I know that's a lot to take in right now. Does anybody have any questions? So you all feel pretty good about it? Sort of? So let's look at what we're going to do for the rest of the class, and we're going to work on the dice game, okay? And let me change my display to the laptop here. Oh, you guys never saw this, did you?
Was the global low value, what did that equal?
It was 0 in this case.
It was 0. Okay.
Yeah, we set the low value to be 0. Is this thing working? What's Nope. Let me swap it back again. Just to plug it in. Okay. There we go. So you guys never saw that I just typed, I wanted to test this thing out, and I said x is 5, type x is int. This is a expression I'm saying, is the type of x an integer? And it said true, so that did work. All right, so what we have today, what is due tonight? And you guys have it lucky, because my online class had both of the things due yesterday. So I split it up for you guys. So one's due tonight and one's due Thursday. And I would have done that for my online class, but I didn't think far enough ahead. So hopefully they did it right. So you have the dice game lab due tonight. Then you have the interview questions. Now, you do not have to, if I can still type on this. Is this going to work for me or not? Maybe it's different when I do my laptop. Oh. So for the interview questions from now on, you guys don't have to record audio. You've done it enough. I know that you can do interviews now, so you can just type out the answers if you want. You don't have to record your audio. If you want to, you can. It's fine. But I wanted you to have, I mean, we're already halfway done with the class. So you've done probably, well, this is module 7. You've probably done 6 of those already, right? Where you've recorded your voice speaking and answering questions like you're in a job interview, which is good for you. but you've done it enough, so you don't have to do it anymore. Just answer, you can just answer the questions, okay? And then read that chapter 8 input validation, that little PDF that's in there. That's what's due tonight. What's due this Thursday is what we call the theater seating lab, and this uses the 2-function input validation model. Okay. This is a pretty big programming assignment, and it's pretty cool, but I'll help you with it on Thursday. Okay. It's probably the biggest. It is the biggest and most complicated lab up until this point. Okay, so what we're going to do for the rest of class, okay, we did review this one function, and then we talked about defensive programming. What we're going to do now is I'm going to break you guys into groups, and we're going to spend the rest of class, which is about an hour, right? We got till 2:30. Trying to, group 1 is going to write the first function called input names that gets the 2 players' names, and I'm going to show you how this program works right now. Let me show you first before I get into this, the meat of this. So this is the dice game. So you're pretending that 2 players are rolling dice. Okay, lab 7. Okay. So let's run this. Okay. This is a 2-player dice game. Each rolls 1 die. The winner is the largest roll. Okay, so that's all this game is. So player's 1 name, let's say we'll call him Fred. And how about Barney? Anybody watch the Flintstones ever? Okay, so Fred and Barney are each going to throw a dice. And when I hit return, it said Fred rolled a 4, Barney rolled a 2, the winner is Fred. Whoever has the biggest number is the winner. And it says, do you want to end the program? No. And then it just rolls again. Fred rolled a 6, Barney rolled a 4, winner is Fred. Let's do it again. Fred rolled a 2, Barney rolled a 2. Now it's a tie. So you got to count for ties. Let's see if we can get one where Barney wins. Fred won again. There's Barney. Okay, Fred rolled a 3, Barney rolled a 5. So this is what your program's going to look like once you get it working today. Hopefully today by the end of class. Okay. So let's look at the lab for a second.
So I didn't realize we were going to do it today.
Hmm?
I was trying to get ahead.
Oh, did you do it?
Yeah.
Good. Well, if you got it, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang it. I spent all night.
Did you really? Good. So here's kind of a little shell, a skeleton of the program right there. But you got it working, huh? Oh,
Yeah.
man, let's see. Okay, so here's the skeleton of the whole program. So we just have a main function, and you're also going to have something above here because you're going to need to import the random module. You're going to print an intro message like I did that says, welcome to the dice game, between 2 players, and the winner has the largest roll. Then you're going to initialize some variables. Then you're going to make a call to input names. So that's what group 1 is going to do. You're going to write the function input names. Okay. Then group 2 is going to write the function that actually rolls the dice. Okay. Group 3 is going to write the function that displays the info, and group 4 is going to put the whole program together. So you're just going to fill in all this stuff. And I'll be around to help, but I want you guys to try it. So here is, again, what you guys are going to do, and I've given you some good hints here. So the function input names that gets the 2 players' names and returns 2 strings, player 1 and player 2. Okay, so that's telling you something right there. It's returning 2 things, right? The function roll dice takes 2 players that you just got before, and that gets the random values between 1 and 6 and returns the winner's name and the roll, what they got. Player 1's roll and player's 2 roll. So say player 1 is Fred and player 2 is Barney. So player 1 would be Fred in this case, player 2 would be Barney. We're going to pass Fred and Barney into this. Fred's going to roll, he's going to get a number. Say he got 6, Barney got 4. You're going to do some if then else checking in there to see which one is the winner, which one has the larger number. And then you're going to return if P1 roll is bigger than P2 roll, then player 1, which was Fred, is the winner. And you're going to return, you're going to say winner's name equals player 1, then you're going to return that. You're going to return that plus the 2 rolls. And then the third function displays the info, and this thing takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parameters. The winner, player 1's roll, player 2 roll, player's 1's name, and player 2's name. And it displays each player's roll and the winner. And then group 4 is going to put all the pieces together. So since you've written the whole thing, maybe you can be part of group 4. I don't know, I'm just saying.
Just work on the next project.
Well, yeah, you could work on the theater seating map if you already got this done. So here's kind of the whole thing. Does anyone need to? You want to see it one more time? How it works? Let me run it one more time. Okay. I'll say no. In the program, yes. Okay. Let me clear it. Okay, I'm going to run it again. Okay, there's my little message. And now it says enter player's 1's name. Let's type a different name now. Let's say Betty, and how about Wilma? Those are the Flintstones' wives. Okay. So now we've got 2 names, player 1 name and player 2 name. And now we're doing the random. Betty rolled a 2, Wilma rolled a, Betty rolled a 4, Wilma rolled a 2, so the winner is Betty. Do you want to end the program? No. Betty won again. Betty won again. Now we had a tie. Let's see if we get Wilma to win. Boy, Betty's on a roll here. There's Wilma. So she finally got a win there. And another win. And another win. Another win. Oh, Wilma's on a roll now. And I want to finally exit. If you guys ever go to Las Vegas to bet, to gamble, did you see how, like, you could get on a roll and you could be on a losing streak and lose, like say that you were losing like 10 times. They say you need $500. You need to take $500 with you to win 100. You got to be able to withstand a whole bunch of bad rolls or bad calls if you're playing craps or you're playing poker or blackjack or whatever. You could get on a bad streak, but then it could come back around randomly. So that's kind of a good thing to remember if you go there. If you go with 100 and think, man, I'm going to win 100, you won't have enough necessarily to withstand the bad luck that you're going to get for a while, possibly. So that's what the general rule. Me and my buddy did that over when we were in college, and we learned how to count cards. We went over to Vegas, tried to find a single blackjack deck, and you try to count the cards in your head that you see on the table after they've thrown them all down. And you keep a running count every time you see a king or a queen or a jack. You're like, okay, that's a +1, and then if you see another card, it's -1. So you're always trying to keep track of all the cards. You're trying to count them real fast in your head. And then if you've seen a whole bunch of face cards, the kings and queens, the big ones, then it's +++, and you say, oh, now's the time to bet. you know, or to double your bet. You know, if the deck gets really plus, the chances of getting a king are really bad because you've seen a whole bunch of them. So that's how the counting cards. So we went over there one time and we won like $300 or something. So we thought, man, we really know what we're doing. So we're like, yeah, we want some money. We came back home and we went over there again, took an airplane over there. And we're like, we're going to win again. And we went over there and then we lost like $500. And then we had no more money to fly back because we didn't buy the plane ticket. And we had no hotel, no nothing. We were walking around the strip all night long. It was freaking freezing out there in Las Vegas. Luckily, my grandmother was out there playing bingo. She loves bingo. So she lent us money to buy a plane ticket to come back. She was winning big on bingo. But we didn't bring enough money. And my buddy, he's like a gambling addict now. He still gambles like crazy. But I hardly ever gamble. So anyway, let's break into groups, and I'll help you guys, and we can write this whole program up. Right now, I think, and you'll have that done. So I'm going to delete this.
You already did the first one.
Can I delete this? Can I erase this? So we'll put group 1 here, and if you guys don't feel like, you can switch groups. You don't have to be in the same group. If you feel like, hey, I know how to write, roll dice or display info. Or, there's really only 3 functions you got to write. So this is group 1. And then we'll put group 2 and 3 over here. And then group 4 can just put the whole deal together.
Yeah, the bottom, let's go on to the bottom.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Okay,
these are-
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So this
All
is group
the
2.
ink,
And group 3. And this is the best pin right here, so whoever gets this, that's a beautiful pin. Okay, so I'm gonna just give you guys the rest of class. You can take a break if you feel like you need to at any time. But just in case this takes you a while, I wanna give you a long time to do this, okay? So have at it, break into your groups, and I'll be around, floating around to help you.
Look,
You
I
finished
thought I
this?
was on to something.
If you, who else is finished? You and you? Yeah, that's it.
I accidentally did the assignments and run, so I switched the days. So I did the last week Thursday, and
Did you?
Yeah.
You did the theater seating? Did you get a break?
Yeah, but I'm.
Oh, let me look at it. You did theater seating? Okay. All right, that's good. What,
Yeah, I already did it.
you did theater, or you did theater?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanna see what you guys did,
Oh.
because that's a tricky lab, and you have to have written it. Did you use the 2 function
Yeah.
input validation? Oh, okay, good. I'll check, I'll walk around and check your guys' lab. So, yeah, I want you guys to write this up here so we can see it. Believe me, each function is not that long. Each function is only
Yes.
5-6 lines long. It's not going to be that hard once you divide and conquer.
Can you break?
Yeah.
Can you tell me if that's all that was needed, basically? I mean,
Okay.
other than the test print, is that all that was needed to name the players, and then the rest is done in the other functions?
Okay, so you want to return. You're close. So you did the function input names, and it has no arguments or
It
no
has none,
parameters.
it's supposed to have none?
Yeah,
Cool.
and then it returns the strings player 1 and player 2.
Okay, so I can make,
So you need to return. So you don't want to print in here. Oh, well, you're just doing it.
that was
Just-
to make
just to
sure
check,
that it was printing what I
Yeah.
input.
Right. So you're going to say return this.
return that, not return input names.
Yeah, return these two separated by commas.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Pilot for me and all.
Okay. Okay, but I never got, I never graded your interview for some reason. Okay, okay. Oh. Oh, it does? Okay, good, all right, okay, I'll go back and double check those scores. All right, yeah, I forgot about that, yeah.
We're just gonna memorialize my terrible